It took me 30 years of research and writing for my Centennial History of University Extension at Harvard, titled The Gates Unbarred. And now I've been asked to provide a meaningful synopsis of that narrative in less than 5 minutes. Perhaps it would be best if I focused on 5 key people to present highlights of that history. The prime mover was John Lowell Jr., a Harvard alumnus who was an early participant in the Lyceum movement of the early 19th century, when in 1830 he became a charter member of the Boston Society for the Diffusion of Useful Knowledge, with Daniel Webster as its first president. He set off on a world tour in 1833, and on April 1st, 1835, sitting on the ruins of the palace at Luxor, Egypt, on the banks of the Nile, he wrote to his cousin in Boston a revised copy of his will, stipulating that half of his estate be used to establish an institute to provide public lectures in Boston on subjects for the moral and intellectual improvement of the citizenry. He died the following year in Bombay, and in 1840, the Lowell Institute began sponsoring lectures on philosophy, natural history, religion, science, and literature, taught by the leading scholars of their time. By the end of the century, more than 4,400 lectures were offered to tens of thousands of eager women and men from the community. In 1900, the trusteeship of the Lowell Institute passed to Abbot Lawrence Lowell, another Harvard alumnus who was then a professor of government. He shared the pro bono publico spirit of his ancestor, but he felt that public lectures were not enough. They had to be tied to an institution of higher learning, such as Harvard. When in 1919 he became president, he announced that, quote, "It would seem to be the duty of every institution of higher learning in the country to use its resources for the benefit of the surrounding community." And he created University Extension at Harvard, and he also established a consortium of the leading colleges and universities in Boston called the Commission on Extension Courses. He appointed James Hardy Ropes, Hollis Professor of Divinity, as the first dean, and he made sure that university extension courses would lead to a degree, an associate in arts that was equal to the Harvard and Radcliffe Bachelor of Arts. Within 3 years, in 1913, the first extension degrees were awarded. Ralph Lowell, another Harvard alumnus, became trustee of the Lowell Institute in 1943. And President Conant of Harvard in 1945 urged him to establish the Lowell Institute Cooperative Broadcasting Council to provide educational programs on the air. In 1949, a consortium of Boston's leading universities and the Lowell Council inaugurated FM radio collegiate courses on psychology, history, and economics. This was soon followed by TV courses in anthropology, geology, and history. The original vision of John Lowell Jr. was revised by A. Lawrence Lowell as University Extension, and evolved yet more with Ralph Lowell into extension radio and television courses under the auspices of the Lowell Institute Cooperative Broadcasting Council. My predecessor in University Extension, Reginald Phelps, also a Harvard alumnus, expanded the curriculum and the number of students significantly. But his most noteworthy achievements were the creation of collegiate courses for the United States Navy, first Polaris University for the Nuclear Navy submarine fleet, and later a program for the surface fleet as well during the years 1960 to 1972, a period during which more than 5,000 registrations were recorded by U.S. Navy students as WGBH-TV prepared the televised courses by Harvard and other Boston faculty. It was called, quote, the biggest television program in higher education in the decade of the 1960s. Dr. Phelps was also instrumental in responding to campus unrest in the late 60s and early 70s by sponsoring courses and programs in communities outside of Harvard Yard, especially in Cambridge and Roxbury. To reach out to new constituencies, particularly minorities, he developed special programs like training teachers of teachers, the Cambridge Economic Opportunity Committee, and Cambridge Model Cities program. Finally, in 1975, I had the privilege of succeeding Dr. Phelps and managed to build on the foundation of my predecessors in university extension. We introduced a tuition assistance plan for Harvard staff in 1976, master's degree programs in 1979, a health careers program in 1980, Lowell scholarships for area high school students and teachers to take courses in the extension school, a comprehensive English as a second language program, and since 1984, a dramatic development from teleteaching to our current distance education program that offers 130 extension school courses online. And today, to commemorate our centennial, we are launching an open learning initiative whereby some of our best professors and our most popular courses are offered online free to the public, such as Gregory Naj's Concepts of the Hero, Harry Lewis's Bits, Marjorie Garber's Shakespeare, and Peter Bowles and William Kirby's China, Traditions and Transformations, among others. Clearly, the venerable tradition of the Lowell Institute lectures endures in university extension, but now the lectern is electronic and the audience is both local and global, with students from 120 countries around the world enrolled. In its century of service, university extension has provided nearly 500,000 women and men access to Harvard educational opportunities. From the original 863 students who attended in 1910, we have grown to more than 14,000, and the number of courses exceed 600 a year. But despite the growth and the changes, the ethos of university extension at Harvard has remained constant, as it was so memorably encapsulated by my friend and English department colleague, Seamus Heaney, in his villanelle for an anniversary composed for Harvard's sesquitricentennial in the fall of 1986, 9 years before Seamus Heaney was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature. The last stanza of his villanelle reads, "Begin again, where frost and tests were hard. Find yourself or founder. Here, imagine, a spirit moves. John Harvard walks the yard. The books stand open and the gates unbarred." Today, as before, Harvard remains connected to the surrounding community as well as to the greater world because the gates remain unbarred. Thank you.